That's why you don't see these coaches fussing about this stuff, because they know they're the ones that were doing it long before the players were doing it.
Watson Brown on the way out, and I want the truth now. You were late to the party today because you were grilling a Simpsons steak. And what do you put on your steak, Watson? How do we season a steak in the Brown residence?
The Brown residence don't put much. Brendan will put a little seasoning, but it's salt, baby.
Little
Isn't
salt.
that awful?
No,
salt.
No, it's not awful.
When you get a good enough steak, you put nothing. If it's a great steak, I don't put even any form of sauce on it with it. I eat it straight.
Because Watson told me when he had the first Simpson, and I said, Watson, would you be a spokesperson for a beef brand built on quality since 1888 on Jim Simpson's farm? In addition to steaks and burgers, they got sausages, roast chicken. They've got it all for you. And look, if you want to buy in bulk, you can get a half or a quarter cow. And these gift boxes make great. These steaks make great gift boxes all year long. They ship premium meats anywhere. Simpsonsmeats.com. I've sent some to some family members in Pennsylvania, some people I want to say thank you to, some clients, etc. Watch your mailbox. Some of you watch your mailbox. But Watson, to your point, you told me, Tony, I could taste it right away.
Oh, you got to go. Just try it, and you will go back. You can't go eat one steak from Simpsons. You're going to go back. So just try it. And let us know if that's not the case.
Watson, you could be my main man. I love you. I appreciate you. Great talking to you today.
Sorry I was late. Sorry the phone didn't work. So appreciate you guys.
Whatever, Watson. Hey, Watson, I heard you chewing early in our segment. I could tell you.
No, you did not. You might not, but you did not hear me during lunch.
Let's go. Take care, Watson. Thank you.
See you guys.
We get a brief timeout. We come back. I want to hear from you. So the coaches are making their voice heard. They want 24 teams. What are some other ramifications? Let's talk about this. We come back on the other side, visit with you, get some more in after this. You got to dream about buying some land and building on that land? Well, Waterside Contracting is your ticket. 25 years of making dreams come true, Michael Scott. For hundreds in our area, custom homes or remodels, Waterside Contracting will build on your lot. They do incredible work all over the area. Structural integrity, quality without compromise. It's a way of life with Waterside Contract. Check out the wonderful work Waterside does. WatersideContractingLLC.com. When it's time for your dreams to come true. Quality without compromising. Waterside Contracting. He doesn't always drink beer, but when he does, he definitely prefers Dos Equis. That's right. The most interesting man in the world has returned, and he's more interesting than ever before. His phone is addicted to him.
You're listening to FM 105.7 and AM 1340, WKGN Knoxville, and W289CU Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
Go live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio with no Brett Hullander today. It's Garrett Armbrust filling in on the production board, and we also got Alex Sarkis joining you. I'm William Pattison. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this fine Wednesday from Knoxville, Tennessee, and we've got plenty to cover over the next 2 hours, including a number on that Tennessee basketball roster, one of the most expensive in college basketball, and Pete Nakos calls it one of the most aggressive spending teams in all of the land. And when you look at Tennessee's current transfer portal class, that adds up. We'll tell you what that number is and how it could even be exceeded in the days to come due to some spots still needing to fill on this Tennessee team. But we'll pivot over to the Diamond after that, talk Tennessee's midweek win over Presbyterian on Tuesday, and also do a little bit more of a discussion on that ABS system. I know both Garrett and Alex are big baseball guys, so I wanted to give them the opportunity to discuss what is going down in the SEC tournament in Hoover here in a couple of weeks. That ABS system that we see in the MLB going to be implemented for the SEC tournament. And then in hour number 2, we'll flip over to Derek Owings and the job he has done since he arrived on campus for Tennessee in January. The Tennessee football athletics team, social media team put out a graphic earlier where this roster has added 867.3 pounds of muscle mass, and they have lost 214 pounds of fat since January. And I know some people are like, oh my gosh, what a slow news day. No, I think this is exactly why you brought Derek Owings in, and we'll discuss the type of impact he's going to have on this Tennessee team in the 2026 season. And I know there's also a lot of talk about the Coaches Association trying to flip up the college football playoff. We'll discuss that as well. And then we'll pivot over to the NBA playoffs, a pair of game 1s last night, a pair of game 2s tonight. We'll recap and get you ready for tonight's action as well. So plenty to cover on a Wednesday. So happy you're here. Let's welcome in the rest of the crew before we get into the rest of the show, beginning with Garrett on the production board. What's up, Garrett?
Doing good. A little bit of a nasty day outside, but excited to be in here, talk some Tennessee. Back on the production board side. First time I've been over here since probably about July when I was producing The Chase, but glad to be back over here.
Yeah, a little familiar territory. Might have been a minute though. Might have been a minute.
It's a little bit intimidating, but once you get it going, it's not too bad.
I will say it is intimidating. And a couple of years ago, there were a couple of times it was just me on the show, and I'd have to do hosting and the production board. And that time we were having a multitude of calls, so it does all add up.
The one-man band.
Yes, exactly. But Alex, to you, how are you?
Very good. We had our last day of class today, me and Garrett. So, always good when that happens. So we're winding down. We got finals coming up here in the next few days. So, yeah, good to be back on. This will be my last week because I'm headed home on Saturday. So, ending off on a good note, hopefully. And, pumped to be back in.
I know we got 2 more days, I guess, this show and Friday.
Yeah.
Assuming you're going to be here Friday.
Yeah, I'll be here Friday.
Okay, good deal. We'll have Alex's going away party on Friday. A lot of going away parties this time of year, as a lot of our college guys are graduating or heading home for the summer. But some guys will be sticking around. I think Garrett said he's hanging out a little bit this summer. So we'll still have some familiar faces. But let's get into our first things first topic. And there have been a number of familiar faces for this Tennessee basketball team that then went away in the transfer portal. But now those new faces have Tennessee basketball fans really excited for what the 2026-27 season could look like. And when the college basketball transfer portal opened up last month, it was clear that Tennessee was preparing to go all in with Rick Barnes and company as he committed to another season on Rocky Top. And that was the expectation going into April, and that's still the expectation for this team, as Pete Nakos put out an article earlier today saying that, quote, every bit of this is because we have an alpha coach, is what On3 told Nakos in regards to why Tennessee has been so aggressive in the portal process. And as the portal season kind of winds to a close, Tennessee and Louisville have emerged as, quote, 2 of the most aggressive spenders in college basketball this offseason, headlining a market that has reached a staggering new threshold, said Nakos. And on that price for this Tennessee roster, this is what Nakos added, quote, the all-in price for one of the biggest portal classes this cycle is over $18 million, sources told On3. Tennessee could eventually cross the $20 million threshold, depending on the final pieces the program adds. And for a team that has made 3 straight Elite Eight appearances, 4 straight Sweet 16s, the last thing on that chart is to make a Final Four and also win a national title. And Tennessee has done everything it possibly could this offseason to give Rick Barnes and this staff the best chance to do so. And what these numbers tell me in terms of that $18 million and also a possible projected over $20 million, says that there's a lot of trust in Rick Barnes and that the athletics department understands that you might not have him much longer on the sidelines. So you're going to have to go out and do whatever it takes to make the most of the time you have with him. And I think Rick Barnes has earned it. I mean, there's no other coach on campus that has had the amount of sustained success over the last 3 to 4 seasons than Coach Rick Barnes. I mean, look, Tennessee football makes the college football playoff in 2024. That was fun. But the year before that, it was not making it. The year after that, last season, was not making it. The baseball team won a national championship in 2024. That's probably the pinnacle out of all of the major sports programs on campus. But now you're kind of in a little bit of a limbo without Tony Vitello. You weren't able to make it to Omaha last year either. So when you talk about consistency, that's what you're getting with Rick Barnes and company. And in the second weekend of the tournament, having 3 chances in a row to play for a Final Four, that shows how close this team is, even if they're pretty outnumbered in some of these matchups. I mean, I don't think Tennessee was the 8th best team in college basketball this year by any means. But through coaching and winning matchups and winning in March, you're able to get to that point in the Elite Eight where you go up against a team like Michigan. That was clearly a better group, but you still had an opportunity, right? And if you had a little bit better, a little bit of a better personnel, if you had some better offensive players, who knows where that game goes. But in reality, you didn't, and you had to go out and get offense. You had to go out and get a better team, and that's what this staff has done. And Danny White, the higher-ups, are okay divvying out that money because they understand that this is maybe a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have a coach like that at Tennessee and have a chance to make a Final Four. So, Alex, beginning with you, when you hear that number of $18 million right now, could get up to 20, what do those numbers say to you?
Well, Tennessee's sick of losing in the Elite Eight. I mean, they're one of 2 teams ever to lose in 3 straight Elite Eights. So I think, it's saying, hey, we want to actually go and get this thing. I mean, you've been blown out in obviously 2 straight Elite Eight games, and you hung with Purdue, but you still didn't come up, on the winning end. But I think it's also speaks to one of the unfortunate realities of college sports now is, having to cough up all this money to contend for a national title. I mean, we saw it with Ohio State in football a few years ago with that roster. The best roster money could buy, and Tennessee is going to be one of the schools in basketball in that conversation now this season. So I think it's definitely a sign of the times, but no, it's what you need to do at the end of the day. And Rick Barnes has earned it. And I think, you're going to see that money pay off, and you very well could see this team. They're expected to be a national title contender, I would say right now, depending on, how the next couple months shake out with how the rest of the roster shapes up. But no, I mean, it's the reality of what college sports is now, and Tennessee's doing what it needs to do to win a national title in 2026.
Whether it's ethical or not, to win, you have to spend,
Yep.
And that is what Tennessee has done this offseason. Garrett, when you hear that $18 million number, that $20 million number, what do those numbers tell you about what Rick Barnes and company have been tasked with this offseason?
Well, I mean, that's the simple, thing you have to do. If your goal is to go out and set to win a national title, those are the numbers that you're going to have to put down. I mean, you look at the major college athletics right now, college basketball and college football. You look at Miami, who played in the national championship for football this year. That was an expensive roster. Texas Tech made the playoffs. That was an expensive roster. Point. Basketball, Florida last year, and they won it. That was an expensive roster. This year, Michigan, they go out and get Lindenborg. That was an expensive roster. Like, if you want to win national titles and win – play for national championships, get playoffs, go deep in the NCAA tournaments, you got to put the money down. And that's how it works in the NIL era. Players want to come play for money. And whether it's ethical or not, obviously Rick Barnes is going to develop you once you get on campus. And these players are going to trust Barnes. And obviously the administrative staff knows that, like you said, Barnes isn't going to be able to do this forever. This isn't something that he's going to be doing for the next 10 years, probably not even something he's going to be doing for the next 3 years. So if this is his last year or his second to last year, whatever it is, you want to give him the ample amount of resources to be able to go out there and compete for a national championship and get across that Final Four line that this school has never attained yet.
Now, Rick Barnes and his staff still have 1 to 2 scholarships left to work with. There's a little bit of gray area on that specific number, but we at least know that there is one spot for sure available in terms of a scholarship for this team. But the roster is mostly set for Rick Barnes entering his 12th season with the Volunteers. And that number is high, as we've discussed. But, hey, if you want to win, you've got to put that type of number up. But now, are you going to get a return on investment is the thing. Because we see this a lot in college sports where teams go all in on a roster. They're willing to give out $20 million or in college football, $50 million to be able to form a formidable roster that can compete for a championship. We saw this last year in college basketball. Kentucky had a really expensive roster, and they ended up getting bounced in the second round, in the round of 32. That's not a great return on investment. There are other teams across college football that spend a boatload of money. Maybe for Texas Tech it was worth it to win the Big 12, but they got axed by Oregon in the Orange Bowl. Is that a great return on investment? So in the era of NIL where you're divvying out all this money, sometimes you don't get that ROI back. And maybe like a Rodney Rice going to USC, he got $2.5 million to play for the Trojans this past year. And he got $2.5 million to play one game because he ended up getting hurt. And those are the things that you can't really factor in, because if Juke Harris goes down with a leg injury in the second week of the season, it's not like you can get an NIL refund or, trade with another team in college basketball. That's done. So there is a bit of a risk when you put out these type of numbers in terms of NIL, because either guys might not pan out, guys could get hurt, and that return on investment doesn't really have a deciding factor until March. And it's a long season, as we know. So I think this spending spree will pay off for Tennessee when you look at the current roster, if everyone is able to stay healthy and everyone is able to stay in good spirits. And that's something that Rick Barnes has really emphasized in this portal process, not only this year, but years past. Let's get guys that are good basketball players, fit the identity of what we are trying to do, but also fit the locker room culture. And again, I use Kentucky as an example. Jaden Quinnant's one of the best players in the portal last year out of Arizona State, a former 5-star. He comes into Kentucky, plays a couple of games, gets nicked up, and says, I'm out. And it was kind of a underlying storyline throughout the year for the Wildcats. Stuff like that just can't occur. And then for Kentucky as well, they had something go down in late November that had a lot of guys upset with each other. A little, he said this to my girlfriend type of deal. And that type of environment is toxic, and it will directly relate to the type of play you see on the court. So it is a big risk to have this type of spending. But I do trust that Rick Barnes has the right culture in place and is getting the right guys that can fit that identity out of the portal. And also, you've got an identity basketball-wise of we've got a lot of really talented offensive players to where we can have a Juke Harris do his own thing one possession, or a Terrence Hill Jr. do his thing one possession, or a Day-Day Ames, whoever you want to say. I think that Tennessee has an identity both on the court and off the court, and that's why I think that the spending spree will pay off for the Volunteers. Garrett, to you, it is a big risk when you put out this type of money, but do you believe this is something that pays off for Tennessee ultimately?
Yeah, I think obviously as long as you stay away from the non-controllables, really, the injuries. Obviously, that's something that when you put together this type of money and this type of roster, you have to stay injury-free. And then obviously the clicking in the locker room. Obviously, Kentucky wasn't able to do that last year. The locker room issues that they had, Quentin's not playing much, and then obviously going to the draft. Those are the type of things that are going to turn a $20 million roster into a team that only makes the round of 32. But I think if you can avoid, the injuries, I don't think locker room is going to be too much of an issue for Barnes. I think Barnes and Pope are two different coaches. Mark Pope is a coach right now that their fans want him to wear body cam footage to go to recruiting visits.
I did see
they
that.
don't understand why you can't land a recruit. And Rick Barnes obviously took a team that probably shouldn't have even made it, possibly into the second weekend last year all the way to the Elite Eight. So I think you're looking at two different cultures, two different coaches there. I don't think you've really had any culture issues in the last few years under a Barnes team, and you really haven't had many in the entire Barnes era at Tennessee. So I think culturally you're fine. I think it's really just about avoiding injuries at this point, and especially of those of the Juke Harris and the Terrence Hill and levels like that. Obviously, players are going to get banged up throughout the year, but you just got to stay away from those season-ending injuries. But, I mean, at the end of the day, those are the uncontrollables. Those are the risks that happen when you put down a $20 million roster. Penn State had a football team that was supposed to make the a national title contending team this season, and their quarterback went down midway through the season, and they ended up playing in the Fenway Bowl. So that's just how sports go. But, I mean, when you put that type of money down, you're going to have a good roster. You're going to have a good team, and it's just all about going out there and executing after that.
Yeah, you mentioned that Mark Pope situation at Kentucky. I don't know who signed off on that in the communications department of, hey, let's put our coach that's under more fire than anyone in the country and give him a phone and say, hey, ask me questions. I mean, honestly, a lot of the comments on that post are more from opposing fan bases, not even their own. So, again, an interesting PR stunt there for the Wildcats, but it does show the type of repercussions that can happen if you whiff on an expensive roster the year before and aren't doing much in the portal process for the upcoming season. And when we talk about that payoff, Alex, I mean, that does put pressure on this team overall. And with these numbers so high, do you combine the possible pressure that these players will face into the mix in terms of how that payoff will happen for Tennessee?
Certainly, and I think this is going to be the most pressured, packed Tennessee team in the Rick Barnes era. It has to be. You've been to 3 straight Elite Eights. It's the highest paid roster that you've had. You're expected to make a Final Four, no doubt, and not only make it to an Elite Eight, but you're expected to win that game this year. Yeah. I mean, you have to. So, I mean, without question, there's going to be a ton of pressure. And that's where I think having Rick Barnes as your head coach is so huge, because you mentioned that culture. Having good culture really helps with facing that pressure, I think. Guys being able to lean on each other, even though this is going to be an entirely new roster, Rick Barnes is going to have those guys, close, and have those guys being able to lean on each other in spots all year long. And obviously it's a long season. There's going to be lows, there's going to be highs. That's how sports work in general, but no, the pressure is going to be huge. And you're expecting a guy like Juke, guys like even the returners, guys like Dwayne Brown. I mean, I think those guys are expected to take a step as well, not even the guys that are making all the money this year. So without question, I think this will be the most team that's under the most pressure here for Rick Barnes. And
something I think is underlying as well is Rick Barnes' future with this team, and I don't think it's ever going to be explicitly said at any point before the season or during the season because of the amount of pressure that will then add to this roster. But, I mean, my vibe right now is that this is Rick Barnes' final year. And I think that's why you've seen the portal process intensify, where the money is there. Let's go get a really good basketball team. Let's go all in. Let's see what happens, right? Because Rick Barnes has proven year after year that he can get you right there, but he needs a little bit more help. And this is the help, I believe, that could get Tennessee to that Final Four spot. But if you add in that variable, I mean, go back to when Duke and Mike Krzyzewski decided to hang it up, right? And that was publicly announced. They go into that Duke, North Carolina game, and those players are tight as can be. And just that, throughout that whole season, it's, man, this is Coach K's last year. And if you're a player on that team, you're like, man, if we don't win them a national championship, we're going to be looked at as the final team that lost or the team that couldn't get it done. So that pressure factors into it too. And that's why I believe that even if this is Barnes' final year, it won't be explicitly said before the season or during the season because of the amount of pressure that's going to add to those players. And Rick Barnes is not a selfish guy. I don't think he wants to make it about him. And I don't think that would ever be something he would put out and be like, yeah, this is my final year. Everyone pack the stands for me. I don't see him doing that. And on top of that money, the $18 to $20 million roster, adding in a possibility of Rick Barnes' final year, that'd be a lot of pressure. So I don't think he's actually going to come out and say that. Now, obviously, there are going to be people that try to mine that information and could throw something out, but ultimately I think it's in the best interest for this Tennessee team, even if Barnes decides to retire, to keep that in the rearview mirror or in the trunk as you travel to, Detroit next year. I think Detroit is the host site for the Final Four. But there's been a lot of conversation about what that starting lineup looks like. Obviously, in the tournament, you play your best 6 to 7 to 8 guys, but that starting lineup is where a bulk of that production comes from. And there have been a range of different projections, whether it be from Ryan Shumpert of Rocky Top Insider, whether it be the VolQuest guys. I've seen a lot of different projections, but the one I see right now in terms of an ideal starting lineup, and I proposed it a couple of days ago, I think you could really go two routes, but in terms of the offensive identity route that you've kind of seen through the transfer portal, I look at Terrence Hill Jr. from VCU, Juke Harris out of Wake Forest, Jalen Harrelson, Tyler Lundblade, kind of those four guys are all on the perimeter. Now, you can fill those specific spots however you want in terms of a 1, 2, 3, 4 guard, but those four guys and then Miles Rubin inside. That's more of the offensive-centric pace and space. Let's give a Juke Harris his room on the wing to hit a shot while Tyler Lundblade sends to the corner and draws a lot of attention, and we'll just kind of rely on Miles Rubin down low to get rebounds. So that's one projection. The other would be kind of the more Rick Barnes historic lineup, what you've seen in years past. So I'd still have Terrence Hill as your starting guard. I'd have Juke Harris at your 2. I'd have Jalen Harrelson from Notre Dame at your 3. And I'd go Dwayne Brown and Miles Rubin. That would give you kind of that two big look inside that you have seen in years past. And I think Rick Barnes can go either way, but if you want more offense and more, let's kind of cook and let these guys do their own thing, I think you go out that 4-out-1-in lineup with four guys on the perimeter that can all score at different levels. And Tyler Lundblade might not be as talented of a scorer as like a Day-Day Ames, but I do think the spacing would be really big for that starting lineup to where you give that guy an open shot and 50% of the time or more, it's going down. So those are the two lineups I look at. But Garrett, to you, do you have an ideal starting lineup for this team currently?
Well, I think the first lineup, obviously, like you said, you're going to get more space and it's going to be more of an offensive style. My only problem with that lineup is you sacrifice a little bit of your defense. So the points you score, the other team might be matching you on the other side of the court. Whereas you go with the second lineup with Brown in there, you have two guys kind of more down low that can get your rebounds, Rubin and Brown. You also have Harris, who had 6 rebounds a game last year. He's going to get rebounds in whatever lineup he's in. So you really have 3 guys on the court that can rebound. I think your defense is better. Obviously, your spacing's not going to be as good on the offensive side. Your three-point shooting's not going to be as deep with Lundblade not on the court. But I think Lundblade and Ames coming in off the bench is that spark plug where you have 2 of those microwave scorers that can come off the bench, score you however many points you need in a quick amount of minutes while your other guys rest. I just think that's the lineup that Barnes is going to probably end up going with. Now he's obviously going to experiment with, I would assume, multiple different lineups early in the season, October, November, December, and nail a starting lineup down before you get to SEC play. But to me, I think the 2 big lineup, obviously you saw that kind of used more this season, and I just feel like if you want to continue, the defensive presence that you've had, that's probably what you go with it. You're still going to get plenty of offense out of that lineup, but I just get concerned with the first one of you sacrifice a little bit of defense. Not that the defense would be bad. Obviously, Harris is still a good defender, but I do get a little bit concerned about, Lundblade's defense maybe a little bit and some of the things that come in that first lineup. I just think you would be, kind of matching shot for shot with the other team a lot in that lineup.
Alex, to you, where do you see your ideal starting lineup looking like for Tennessee?
I like the 4-out-1-in one that you proposed there at the beginning because I think Garrett's mentioned maybe the defense lacking a little bit with that lineup, but I think Rick Barnes might have to, you've got this $18 million roster now. You've got all these scorers. You might have to take a little bit of that hit in order, to get to where you want to go this year. I think the bench, obviously, we've been discussing about that a little bit too. I mean, this is a bench that can score. Look at the teams that have won the national title. Look at Michigan this past year. Those guys coming in off the bench that could score, that were averaging double-digit points per game, that's ginormous. And those are the guys that really hurt Tennessee. Remember that Elite Eight game? Like when you had a guy like Mara go down with 2 fouls. I mean, when they can just go to the bench and get that scoring, that's huge. And if Tennessee can get that this year from guys like Ames, that's going to be ginormous. So I like the 4-out-1-in, and I think Tennessee might need to change the identity a little bit to the offensive side if they want to get to where they want to go. But like Garrett said, I mean, it's a Rick Barnes experimentation thing there at the beginning of the year. So we're going to see a lot of different looks. I think Dwayne Brown's poised for a breakout year maybe.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching him this past year, and he had a few really standout games defensively. So a great defensive guy to go to off the bench too if you need that.
Yeah, that's the other part that's kind of been overshadowed. The guys you do return, Dwayne Brown II being one of them, Troy Henderson, a guard that I thought was fearless throughout his freshman year. Obviously, he dealt with some shoulder pain and some injuries, but that was a guy that immediately when he stepped onto the court in that first matchup in the regular season for Tennessee, he came out and was ready to shoot and ready to play, and I really like that out of him and could see him taking a jump in year 2 as well. Seeing a couple of comments real quick. Matt Double S asking, what are the chances at getting the 7-1 high school kid? And that's in reference to Favor eBay, who was recently jumped all the way up from number 142 to 82 in the Rivals 150 rankings, the final rankings for the recruiting outlet for the 2026 class. And I'd say right now Tennessee is in good standing with him, and there are definitely opportunities to add him to this roster. And if eBay ultimately decides that Tennessee's a good spot for him, Tennessee's going to have the room to add him. So he's a player that I view as kind of a developmental piece throughout the year. But if you can have him ready by March or mid-February or SEC play to kind of bang around down low as a depth piece, I think you're in good standing there. So I think there's a good chance that eBay is going to be a volunteer, but obviously you have to let him go through that recruiting process. There are other teams and other groups looking to court him as well. But I'd say Tennessee in a good spot right now for eBay, and that would be a really nice addition, getting a true 7-footer at 7'1", 235 pounds. I like those dimensions for sure. But when we come back, we will pivot over to the Diamond, where Tennessee baseball gets a midweek win over Presbyterian. How does that turn into possible momentum as you await a matchup with top 5 ranked Texas this weekend? We'll also talk about that ABS system that is going to be implemented into the SEC tournament. We see it in the MLB, but is it a good idea to implement it in the postseason for the SEC tournament? We'll break that down on the other side. Stay right here. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
For the fans, by the fans, this is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
What kind of day is it? It's a White Claw day. Grab a pack, grab your friends, everything else in life can wait. Your friends shouldn't. Let's go. White Claw. Grab life by the claw. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. White Claw Seltzer Works, Chicago, Illinois.
Vol fans, reimagine your home at Broadway Carpets and Flooring for any remodeling or building needs. With a variety of carpets, rugs, hardwood, vinyl, and stone, Broadway has all the flooring and installation options you're looking for, including pet-resistant products like Pet Perfect Carpet from Shaw Floors. Visit their showroom in downtown Knoxville or the location in West Knoxville located on Kingston Pike near Pellissippi Parkway today.
A brand built in Tennessee and born from the love of the game, Inward Half revolutionizes golfing comfort. Crafted by a former pro and dedicated enthusiast just like you, our luxury performance wear guarantees you stay cool and comfortable through every swing and every day. We're not just a brand. We've set out to create a lifestyle for those who understand that impeccable style and premium performance are a hole-in-one. Enjoy the walk-in with Inward Half.
Smoky Mountain Brewery is the place to be for game day. From the moment you walk in, it's wall-to-wall big screens, making Smoky Mountain Brewery the perfect place to watch the Vols or your favorite team in action. With locations in Turkey Creek, Maryville, Pigeon Forge, and Gatlinburg, you're never far away from a great time at Smoky Mountain Brewery. Try one of their world-famous microbrews like Black Bear Ale, Mountain Light, or Cherokee Ale. Juicy burgers, wings that bring the heat, and delicious handmade pizzas made with hand-tossed crust from the freshest ingredients and their own special sauce from a secret recipe, topped off with hand-grated cheese and farm-fresh toppings. And don't forget, those famous microbrews are also available in kegs for your next party or in 6-packs and growlers to go. So grab your crew and head to Smoky Mountain Brewery and tell them Fan Run Radio sent you. Smoky Mountain Brewery. Eat local, eat good.
The Voluntary Reaction.
Can't get enough Tennessee basketball? Join Fan Run Radio as soon as every UT game is over for Big Orange Country's post-game radio free-for-all. The Voluntary Reaction will be taking your calls on the Vols as soon as every game is over. So tune in and buckle up as we drink from the keg of glory all the way to the Final Four.
The Voluntary Reaction. Raw, unfiltered, real.
Hey Vols fans, Cody Brown here. I grew up right here in Tennessee and know what it means when someone says, I've got your back. That's why you can trust Farm Bureau Insurance of Tennessee. Whether it's your home, your vehicle, your family's future, or the business you built from the ground up, we will show up for all of your insurance needs. We are Tennesseans who understand what matters, which is doing right by you. Insurance is not all about just paperwork and policies, but it's about the people we insure every day. So if you want insurance that hits home, give me a call at 865-992-3871. Go Vols.
All right, back here on the Playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this fine Wednesday, whether you're listening on the free Fan Run Radio app, 105.7 FM or 1340 AM here in K-Town on the local dial, or on that X/YouTube live stream. Have your listener watching. We do appreciate your time. And if you're on that YouTube live stream, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss any Fan Run content, and we love hearing from you as well. Make sure to use that comment section as Buck is already saying, whoop, whoop, the mighty Presbyterians, where were they ranked when discussing Tennessee's midweek baseball win over the Blue Hoos on Tuesday.
I thought it was the Blue Hose.
Is it the Blue Hose?
Yeah, I think so.
I just didn't want
They did it. So I looked up during the game yesterday because I didn't know what their actual name was. And I looked up and they had a whole history of their name on their website.
I know it's spelled hose, but sometimes that's a word that.
No, I was stunned that
you don't want to.
That's how they were saying it in the stadium. So I made sure too.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about that Vols midweek win as Tennessee kept its perfect record in midweek games intact with a 8-1 victory over Presbyterian on Tuesday night at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. The Vols now improved to 32-17 on the year, and they scored their first 6 runs via the long ball, blasting 4 homers through the first 6 innings to build a 6-1 lead before adding 2 late runs in the bottom of the 8th. And Blake Grimmer, Trent Grindlinger, Levi Clark, and Garrett Wright all went yard for the Big Orange in the win, increasing UT's home run total to 91 for the year. And Tennessee's bullpen was stellar in the win as well, posting a combined 7 scoreless innings with 11 strikeouts while only allowing just 1 hit. And 4 freshmen towed the rubber on Tuesday night as Ethan Bayato, Chandler Day, Taylor Tracy, and Will Haas all got some action in those flawless performances. And Beato earned his 3rd win of the season after retiring all 8 batters he faced in 2 2/3 shutout frames. And obviously Presbyterian, not a team that you want to hold up as a litmus test before welcoming in a top 5 team in Texas this weekend. But after a series loss to Kentucky over the weekend in Lexington, you needed to get back in some sort of a groove, and I think at least for a couple of guys at the plate, they did so, and you hope to carry that into that Texas matchup. But, Alex, beginning with you, your takeaways from yesterday's win in the midweek.
Yeah, I think my biggest one will be Trent Grindlinger. I mean, he's been incredible this year, and now he's holding the middle part of that order for the lineup. I mean, he's only a freshman, and he's having a heck of a year. Really a breakout, kind of a Levi Clark-esque year from his freshman year last year. And he just continues to execute. Homered again, and a guy that really Tennessee has relied on as one of the only freshmen in that starting lineup all year. And his offense has been needed because we saw what happened over the weekend at Kentucky. Grindlinger homered in that series as well. So, he's been a guy they've had to rely on. And now he's slotted into the middle of that order, which is, it's a good thing for Tennessee, but they still need some more production out of that lineup, obviously, coming off of the series loss this weekend. Levi Clark, again, a guy that really struggled out of the gates this year. He homers again, so I thought that's the thing you want to see. Obviously, Presbyterian pitching, not the greatest thing in the world by any means. I think they were 10-38 record-wise coming into the game, so just a pretty run-of-the-mill midweek game. I really wish that Tennessee would play some entertaining teams in midweek games. I mean, you look around the SEC this year, the reason Tennessee's undefeated is because, I mean, they've played quite literally, it has to be one of the worst midweek schedules in the country.
Yeah.
And look at all these other SEC teams that have lost in midweeks, and they're playing, out-of-conference teams. They're going on the road to play midweek games at other schools. Like, I don't know, even Texas this past week played UTSA, obviously always a decent baseball school. So, I don't know. I mean, that's just one of my complaints. I wish Tennessee played more entertaining midweek games and against better teams, but that's a rant for another day.
I think some people in the YouTube chat would agree with you on that one, Alex. Matt saying that that Presbyterian was ranked 250th heading into yesterday's game. And Garrett, you mentioned it on Monday's broadcast, discussing whether or not that Tennessee would actually go through with this one. And you got some nice publicity on Twitter last night too from all the cancellations from these games. Did you feel like Tennessee should have considered doing that in terms of, that affecting what their postseason metrics may look like?
I mean, I'm against it, so I'm glad they played the game. I think if you schedule one of these games, you need to play it. Presbyterian is the smallest Division I school in the country. They have 1,000 students. Them being able to go on the road and playing a team that won the national title 2 years ago for a team that's 10-38 is probably the coolest thing that they'll do all season. So, to those type of players and to schools like that, I mean, I understand that. I think if you play a college sport or college athletics, college athletics to me is more than just the biggest 25, 30 schools. In football, I like watching the Group of Five. I like watching FCS. I like enjoying all of that. College basketball, I like watching the mid-major. So in baseball, I don't think you should cancel against the mid-major. I think the way that the RPI is set up right now, the system of RPI is good, but the fact that if you win a game, you can lose points because you're playing a team that doesn't have a high RPI, that doesn't make sense. So you should never be punished for winning a game. So, no, I mean, I definitely thought there was a chance they wouldn't play it, but obviously they went through, they did. And the offense, obviously, last night took care of business with the home runs, and it was nice to see Jay come off the bench and get a base knock there, have a couple RBIs. Obviously, you had some home runs, pretty much the same stuff that Alex just hit on. Grinlinger, nice to see him stay hot, and he's obviously going to be one of the faces of the lineup next season. So Eisfelder came in there at the end of the game, another guy that's probably going to be an impactful player next season. So, yeah, just kind of a ho-hum Tuesday night game at the ballpark as you shift your focus to bigger things this weekend.
I'm not saying that Tennessee shouldn't play schools like Presbyterian because I agree with Garrett. Like, that is a big part of college sports. I just wish every game was not against schools like that.
I agree. Clemson played Coastal last
night.
Yeah,
like that's
Texas
fun.
Played UTSA. Like we could easily even teams that are better. Tennessee Tech. Like you lost to them and your best season ever in the Wood Bat game. I think you could play teams like that. Georgia, like Athens is not Athens. Georgia Tech. You could play Georgia Tech. Yeah. Atlanta's not a far drive. Like go on the road, play some teams, do some stuff. You see Georgia and Clemson. They play sometimes. Like go schedule some ACC opponents.
Yeah, no pun intended on that ho-hum when discussing those blue hose for the Presbyterian
I got
team.
the history if you want it.
Yeah, real quick.
So they used to wear blue socks, and so like how like the White Sox called the pale hose.
Yes,
so it's kind of that same idea, and it was given to them by sports writers, I guess.
Interesting.
Back in their old days. So
very, very interesting history lesson there from Alex. Well, Tennessee is looking to rewrite their recent history in SEC series games as they welcome in Texas this weekend, a top 5 team in college baseball. And the series will run Friday to Sunday in front of the patrons at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, the final SEC home series of the year for the Volunteers. And as we talk about the postseason and maybe not playing a team like Presbyterian because it could affect your postseason metrics, well, this is a big opportunity for Tennessee this weekend to maybe solidify themselves in the NCAA tournament, currently projected as a 3 seed by Baseball America. We discussed that yesterday, but Tennessee slated to be the 3rd seed in the Atlanta-Georgia regional, which would be hosted by number 1 seed Georgia Tech in that spot. Last week, Tennessee was a 2 seed. Heading into that Kentucky matchup, you lose 2 out of 3, you now drop to a 3. But in terms of this weekend, one of the weird things about Tennessee baseball is that one week, everything's up. The next week, it all comes crashing down. If that is staying true this week, it could be a good one for Tennessee baseball. But, Alex, what do you project against the Longhorns right now?
Strap in if you're Tennessee. I mean, that's all you can say. I mean, Levi Clark said last night that he thought in Lexington that the lineup was really pressing in those first 2 days, and I think that's something obviously that we didn't expect in here, considering what our picks were for that series. But listen, you got to go out and you can't be present this weekend, and I don't think Tennessee will. I'm not saying they're going to win the series, but I mean, you would love to get a game out of this and win a game. Your rotation needs to be better. I mean, Teagan obviously needs to be better. It sounds like that's going to stay the same. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have a fantastic crowd. First time Texas has ever been to Lindsey Nelson Stadium, so it's going to be a venue for sure to be at. But maybe we'll see if that can juice up Tennessee at all on the field. But obviously, we all know the Longhorns are one of the great programs in college baseball. So, and Slosh Nagel coming in, and it's going to be a cool weekend, I think, for Josh Elander. He tried to slough it off last night, but it's still a cool moment, I think, for him and his family. And for Tennessee to have, a program like that come in for the first time in SEC play. So it'll be a cool venue, but I think Tennessee's going to have some trouble.
Yeah, we talked about the pressure that Tennessee basketball is facing possibly this upcoming season. Well, there's a lot of pressure mounting inside Lindsey Nelson Stadium this weekend for first-year head coach Josh Elander. Yes, he's got 32 wins in his first year, which is a program record. However, that has not been done so efficiently in SEC play. Garrett, how much pressure is on this Tennessee team to come out with a series win against the Longhorns?
There's going to be a pretty good amount. Obviously, Texas is one of the premier teams in the country this season. Came off a good series win against Mississippi State last weekend. A good win against UTSA last night, who made a super regional. Texas is going to be ready to go this weekend, and it's going to be, your team has played. You haven't really played two bad series in a row, so obviously you don't really know what you're going to get. You've kind of had a good series, bad series, good series, bad series. So you're on pace, I guess, to play a good series. But I think all you can ask for is to get to a rubber game on Sunday and see what happens. Just try and win one of the two games Friday, Saturday, and then get to Sunday. And if you win the game, great. If you don't, you still have a chance going into Oklahoma next week. If you get swept this weekend, obviously you're going to have to do the sweeping next weekend. So hopefully you win two. Worst case scenario, if you win one, you kind of keep your season going. But you're in the fight right now. You got to get 3 wins out of these last 6. So however you can do that, and it would be nice to play well in front of the home crowd. You haven't had a whole lot of success in home environments outside of the doubleheader against Alabama. So it would be nice to have, the crowd be in it and engaged for all 3 games and to be able to come out with a series win.
That is an interesting note that you add, talking about the kind of lack of home success this year in SEC series. Kind of deflating when, these ticket prices are pretty expensive. The new stadium, you want to see your team win and perform well in those matchups. And you did so against Alabama, but there have been a number of times where it's kind of a lot of grunts coming from the crowd. Maybe go back to that Checker Lindsey Nelson Stadium game against Ole Miss and that series really for its entirety. But Tennessee and Texas start on Friday. The Friday night contest and Saturday contest will be on the SEC Network Plus, while Sunday's matchup currently slated to be on ESPN2. So get those password books prepared for Friday and Saturday. You'll get the day off on that on Sunday, as the Vols are on ESPN2. When we come back, though, we'll discuss the SEC tournament in Hoover, Alabama, obviously a couple of weeks away, but they're implementing the ABS system that we see in the MLB. Is right now the correct time to be tinkering with stuff in postseason play for the conference? We'll discuss that when we return right here on the Playbook.
Catch up with all things Fan Run by subscribing to our podcast feed. Like, rate, and download the show from the Fan Run app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Wilco at Knoxville Smiles. Have you ever wanted to improve the look of your smile? We know firsthand what the power of a great smile means to a person's confidence and health. Our team of doctors can provide you with an array of options for helping you achieve your cosmetic goals. From simply moving teeth into a better position, to reversible cosmetic bonding, to full mouth implant-supported dentures. It is our goal to help patients feel good about their appearance while achieving optimal health. Want to learn more? Call us at 865-539-1776 to schedule an evaluation or visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com.
Hi, this is Bo Kregner from the Kregner Group at Realty Executives, and I know there's a lot of choices here in East Tennessee when it comes to choosing a realtor. Here's why the Kregner Group is different. At the Kregner Group, our motto is walking by faith, serving others. It's how I live my life. It's how I run my business. Here at the Kregner Group, we're committed to doing real estate the right way. Faith, honesty, integrity. The Kregner Group. Call me anytime at 865-742-1035 or visit my website at bonoshouses.com.
Surfside is made with vodka, real tea, and real juice, and has only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar, and 0 bubbles. That's right, no bubbles, no troubles. That's why Surfside was named the 2025 Spirit Brand of the Year by MarketWatch. Their variety packs come with options: iced tea, lemonade, or green tea. Find your flavor by trying them all. Surfside, sunshine in a can. Must be 21 or older to enjoy. Party smart.
Welcome to Axle Logistics, where excellence isn't just a goal, it's an energy. As a leading third-party logistics company, Axle is powered by an award-winning culture built on a work hard, play hard mentality. Here, the drive for success is contagious and hard work never goes unnoticed. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up, Axle Logistics is the place to launch your career. Join us and take your ambition to the stars. To learn more, visit axlelogistics.com.
All right, back here on the Playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this hump day from Rocky Top. We'll continue discussing the SEC baseball tournament as we were talking Tennessee and what they could possibly look like heading into that tournament over the next couple of weeks as they wrap up the regular season. But we discussed this yesterday, and I wanted to bring it back today because I know you guys are both big baseball guys. The Southeastern Conference will use the experimental automated ball strike challenge system in the SEC tournament May 19th through the 24th in Hoover, Alabama. And this will be the first college baseball usage of an ABS challenge, which are now debuting this season in the MLB. And a lot of them have been, really positive reviews. Now, maybe for the umpire, it's not as positive because you find yourself on a 2 million view Twitter page, but I think for the integrity of the game and speeding things up and making sure things are right, it is good. But my question for you guys is, do you like having something like this being implemented in SEC postseason play? We haven't had it all regular season. And it's not that it's like a game-changing dynamic that is added, but over the course of a game, one pitch, one hit, one anything could dictate the latter outcome. So do you guys like that they're implementing this in the postseason as opposed to not seeing it all year long? Alex, beginning with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and Garrett and I were just talking about this in the break, a lot of people are comparing it to when they added the extra safety base a few years ago in the SEC tournament. I think ABS is completely different. And you said it's not a game-changing, change, but I think it certainly can be. I mean, if you got 3-2 bases loaded, and that's a big call. So I think it definitely, and I love the system of ABS. I'd rather you see it started at the beginning of the season. Obviously, I just think throwing it just in the middle of the SEC tournament or at the beginning of the SEC tournament, it's going to be interesting to see, but I don't know if I love the idea of, these teams who are playing for, in better seeding in the NCAA tournament now having to adjust on the fly to this. And I'm sure, it's not going to be a huge adjustment, but Josh Elander touched on it last night. I mean, they are going to, their strategy to this. And whether, in the MLB, for example, a lot of times you don't see pitchers challenge. It's only catcher and hitter. So we'll see how Tennessee approaches it. But, I think it'll be interesting. But if you're going to do it, just do it at the beginning of the year. And I understand, this is an SEC thing, so it's a lot easier to, pass that rule. But I would love to see this in college baseball starting next year. But I don't know. Putting it in tournament play, it does change the game a lot. And so I don't know if I like that big of a change coming, when there's a championship on the line.
Garrett, to you, same question.
Yeah, similar points to Alex. Obviously, when they debuted it in the MLB, all those batters had either A, spring training to fiddle around with it, or B, the minor leagues, because obviously the minor leagues tested it before it got to the MLB. So obviously, all the college players, it's going to be new for them. But, at the end of the day, it's going to be new for everybody. None of these players have done it before because obviously it wasn't in the high school ranks and it's never been done in college. So, like Alex said, the SEC tournament's been known to mess around with the stuff. You had the safety bag that was debuted in 2024. And, people got kind of huffy and puffy about it before the tournament, and then, things went all smoothly with it. So I'm sure it'll go mostly smooth. I think you get, 3 challenges? I didn't read completely into it. But
I think it's 3.
3 challenges, so obviously I'm assuming the same with the MLB. You win the challenge, you get to keep it. So, you're probably going to have some type of student assistant that's going to sit there with their iPad all game and see if it's a strike or not, and they're going to be assigned to the ABS duties. And if they think it's a strike or a ball, they're going to give some type of, message, and then they'll go ahead and challenge it. Or if it's, the batter or the pitcher, they'll just go for it from there. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, the SEC tournament, most of the teams in the SEC tournament, if not all, have already kind of played their way in, or they're out of the tournament. You don't really have any teams in the SEC tournament that are going to play their way into the NCAA tournament. So I think it's fine. It is what it is. It'll be interesting to see, but I'm with Alex. I would have liked to have seen it debuted at the beginning of the season, ideally.
If the rules are the exact same as the MLB, they wouldn't be able to do – so normally hitters, if they're going to challenge, they can't look towards the dugout. As soon as you look towards the dugout, it's got to be almost instant. I've heard in the MLB it's like a 2-second buffer, but if you turn and look towards your dugout, your challenge is void automatically. Okay. So I'm assuming it'll be the same for this, but I'm not 100% sure.
And it's 2 in the MLB. It's going to be 3 for the SEC
And then
tournament.
you get an extra for extra innings if it gets there.
Correct. And you guys have liked it in the MLB.
I love it. Yeah, I love it in the MLB. I feel like I had some problems with 3 challenges for college initially when it came out, but I think MLB umpires are so much better. Sure. Obviously, like we're going to realize, watching this SEC tournament, how good these MLB umpires are.
Yeah.
Because we're probably going to see these college guys make some pretty bad calls. But, so I think 3 is a good number. We'll see how it goes. I mean, and if the umpire's doing a good job, you're not going to see a lot of challenges. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see, especially in college, if you have any of these, so-called psycho pitchers want to challenge on their own, because that's something that we really don't see at all in the MLB. So I'm excited to see how these young kids handle it.
I wonder if they're going to be able to use it though, like next year in all the colleges, because they don't use the safety bag at every team doesn't use the safety bag.
Yeah.
There's certain conferences that don't do that, so it'll be interesting to see if the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, the main conferences, Sun Belt, the teams that are putting the most teams in the tournament, if they use the ABS, then other conferences don't. And then obviously in the NCAA tournament you do. It'll be interesting to see how that goes next season as well.
Yeah.
Well, Hoover is still 2 weeks away, but the Lady Vols are in action later on today in the SEC tournament. The 5th ranked and 5th seeded Lady Vols will play the 13 seed Ole Miss Rebels on Wednesday at approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Time as they open postseason play. The magic number for this Lady Vols team since 2023 has been the number 3, as Tennessee is 169-11 when scoring 3 or more runs over that span. And Carlin Pickens, the number 1 player in the draft earlier this week.
That was cool.
Riding in some momentum to this matchup. And this Lady Vols team is going to be fun to watch in the postseason as well. I know there's a lot of discussion right now around this Tennessee baseball team, what the future looks like for them. But this Lady Vols squad has been really impressive throughout the year. They were so strong at the beginning of the year and out of conference play. And this is a team to watch for. So 5 o'clock is when that gets things started, and that'll be on the SEC Network. Beth Mowens and Michelle Smith on the call for that one. So 5 p.m. Eastern Time if you don't have anything going on today, other than listening to The Drive from 3 to 6 on Fan Run Radio. When we come back, we'll flip over to the gridiron. Tennessee football got a big-time hire this offseason with Derek Owings, and that progress has already been put into fruition with this Tennessee team, dropping 867 pounds of fat this offseason. Or excuse me, they've added 867 pounds of muscle. They've dropped 214 pounds of fat. Good stuff there. We'll talk about how he'll impact this 2026 Tennessee team, and we'll also pivot over to the hardwood and discuss the NBA playoffs. Plenty to cover in hour 2. Stay right here. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio.
Follow us on Twitter or X or whatever the they're calling it these days at Fox Sports Knox. Fox Sports Knoxville. Fan Run Radio.
Blackford Veterinary Surgery Referral specializes in surgeries not regularly performed by your pet's general veterinarian. They're currently accepting referrals from vets all across the country. With their newly renovated state-of-the-art surgery center and highly trained staff, clients can rely on professional and thorough care. If your vet says that your pet needs surgery or rehab, ask for a referral to Blackford Vet and let them get your best friend back on its feet. Located conveniently in West Knoxville. For more information, visit blackfordvetsurgery.com.
Snakes, zombies, sharks, heights, speaking in public. The list of fears is endless. But while you're clutching your blanket in the dark, wondering if that sound in the hall was actually a footstep, the real danger is in your hand, when you're behind the wheel. And while you might think a great white shark is scary, what's really terrifying and even deadly is distracted driving. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Running a business, coaching a team, planning your next big event, you need more than just gear. You need SM Athletics and Logo Solutions. Custom uniforms, branded apparel, promotional products, done right, done fast, and built to show off your brand with pride. From local businesses to high schools to major universities, SM Athletics is trusted by winners. Get real service, get real quality, get noticed. SM Athletics and Logo Solutions, where your brand comes to life.
Visit smathletics.com and let's build something great together.
You're listening to FM 105.7 and AM 1340, WKGN Knoxville, and W289CU Knoxville, Fan Run Radio.
Fan Run Radio, where Big Orange Country comes to talk sports. Start your morning off with your daily dose of talk sports with John Reed and Cody McClure from 8 to 11. Then it's Tony Basilio from 11 to 1. The Playbook with William Pattison from 1 to 3. And The Drive from 3 to 6. It's 10 hours of hard-hitting local sports radio every day, right here on the flagship station for Tennessee fans. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Are you ready for the start of a new season? Maybe looking for your team to go on a tournament run? Get game day ready with Crumble. Head on over to your nearest location and pick up 12 pre-selected cookies plus exclusive toppers. When you're looking for dessert options, there's no question about who you should call on. Our listeners already know. Last year, the Dubai chocolate was a home run, along with the brownie batter. Oreo crumb was another crowd favorite. What new flavor will set the standard this season? If you're in the Knoxville area, there are 3 locations ready to serve you: Clinton Highway, Parkside Drive, and Maryville. Download the Crumble app to build your best lineup and vote on the best combos. You can even put your bid in to request a new flavor. Order in the app and slide on over to your nearest location. Tell them Fan Run sent you, and as always, it's for the fans, by the fans. Don't miss the cookies.
Here we go. Hour number 2 on a Wednesday, live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios. It's the Playbook on Fan Run Radio with Garrett Armbrust and Alex Sarkis joining you. I'm William Pattison. Great stuff in hour number 1. We'll continue it here in hour number 2 as we discuss what Derek Owings is doing for Tennessee football. That's the new strength and conditioning coach that came over in the offseason for the Volunteers after winning a national title with Indiana. Some results were put out today by Tennessee football, and they're pretty impressive. We'll discuss that and the type of impact Owings will have on this team this upcoming season. We'll also pivot over to the NBA playoffs and discuss last night's Game 1s and get you ready for tonight's Game 2s in the Eastern and Western Conferences. And we'll wrap it up with our final thoughts, as we always do. Garrett, when we came on today, you were mentioning the weather and how you kind of didn't like that it was a little dreary. I don't know if I'm in a weird mood, but I kind of dig it. I kind of like. I don't think we have had like clouds and darkness like this in a while.
Nothing beats a good rainy day.
I like the rain on the inside, but you can't tell me that I enjoyed walking from the strip to the communications building this morning when it was pouring down rain my entire walk.
That is true. I did get a little bit PO'd walking just from my truck about 5 feet away from the door outside and getting pelted with rain. But sometimes it's kind of peaceful.
It's a vibes thing,
yeah.
There's nothing worse, though, than sitting in class and you're drenched and your hair's all wet, your clothes are wet. Like, it's just not a good situation.
And then the chick that brought her umbrella looks great, and then you look like a mess. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. All right, well, let's pivot over to Tennessee football and discuss a new revelation that came out this morning via Tennessee football on social media. This offseason, Tennessee football had some major shakeups on its staff. Obviously, Tim Banks was fired from the defensive coordinator position. New strength and conditioning coach comes in. A lot of new faces, right? But Jim Knowles was kind of the headliner out of the group, coming over from Penn State, a credentialed defensive coordinator who boasts over 30 years of college football experience, was with Ohio State during that 2025, or I guess 2024 national championship run. The title game was in 2025, but you get the point. And Heupel made sure to go out and add, big-time hires after letting go of guys this past year. And he usually does not fire people. Tim Banks was the first coordinator he's ever fired as a head coach. Whether that's believable or not, it is. And I think Jim Knowles was a hell of a hire, a championship hire. But one that I think could be even more influential is another recent champion, and that's Derek Owings, who was with Indiana this past year as their strength and conditioning coach, helped engineer a 16-0 season. Fernando Mendoza came into Indiana out of California, gained 20 pounds in the offseason. You saw all those added pounds on that final 4th and 5 run in the national championship where he was able to go through a couple of really tough Miami defenders. That's the type of impact that starts in the weight room with a guy like Derek Owings. And Owings joined the staff and got a reported $1.2 million paycheck, one of the most expensive strength and conditioning coaches in all of college football. But as we were talking about in hour one with that basketball team, if you want to win, you've got to spend. And that's what Tennessee did with this staff. And already Owings is making an impact on the Vols. On Wednesday, Tennessee football posted a graphic detailing the progression the team has made in the weight room from January to May, and that is a 14-week period. And so far, the team has added a total of 867.3 pounds of muscle, and they've lost 218.1 pounds of fat, and 33 players have added at least 11 pounds or more of muscle mass. Now, there have been an array of comments online, some of them saying, oh, this is a bunch of window dressing, or this is a PR stunt. Whatever you want to call it, that's fine. But what I see from this is Derek Owings is coming in and making an immediate impact. This past season for Tennessee football, what was it characterized by? Well, bad tackling, not being able to wrap up and bring down players, poor tackling angles as well, fatigue, and a lot of mental lapses on both sides of the ball, right? And you might be saying, well, William, that's not necessarily something that's going to be learned in the weight room, but I disagree. In January, February, March, April, when you're not playing football and not playing in front of 100,000 fans and being a spectacle every week, you've got to go in and put in work so that when you do meet up on the field, you're mentally tough, you're mentally strong, you're physically strong, you're able to wrap up and bring down a 220-pound running back. Those are the type of things that are implemented right now that pay dividends in the regular season. And that's why I think these numbers are really impressive. Now, sure, there are 90 to 100 players on the team. 867.3 pounds of muscle basically says everyone gained 10 pounds. But that's still good. It's better than you were. How is that a negative? Some people are trying to spend, that's only 10 pounds. Well, that's 10 pounds more than they were. And last year, that was a huge issue. So I love this, and I think it speaks volumes of how big of a deal it was to bring in Owings, a championship strength and conditioning coach, a guy that does not BS around. I've got a lot of friends and people I know that have played on these Tennessee teams over the last 5 to 6 years. When Owings was hired, I had 3 to 4 of them text me and say, that's a guy that's going to make a change, an immediate change, because the vibe in the weight room was kind of go in and do your thing. That's not how it is with Owings. It's go in and listen to me, and we're going to do my thing. And I think that's great, and that's going to pay dividends come football season. Garrett, to you, how big of a deal will Owings be for Tennessee in terms of what they look like when the season starts in early September?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big deal. This is a guy that's coached under Cignetti for the past 4 or 5 years. He was with him at JMU. He was with him at Indiana. Obviously, I think Kirk Cignetti right now is the best coach in college football from a developmental standpoint of how he develops 2- and 3-star talent into winning a national championship. And part of that is with Owens developing your body type. A lot of these 2- and 3-star guys were underdeveloped in high school and were under-recruited because of that, or were under-recruited out of the transfer portal and ended up being really good. Look at D'Angelo Ponce. He's, 5'9", and, was a high-level NFL draft pick, won a national championship at Indiana, came from JMU. So I think he's developed a lot of these guys' body types from, their high school days to when they were at Indiana to win a national title through JMU into Indiana. And then obviously just coaching underneath that Cignetti tree. Even though he's a strength and conditioning coach and not a coordinator, he's still underneath his tree. He's still seeing what Cignetti's done, and being able to coach underneath Cignetti, I think is massive. So if you can bring that Cignetti, grit and what you're talking about, the no BS kind of mentality to the locker room, I think that's massive. And then obviously from everything that I just said about how he's developed these body types, I think he's going to continue to do that. Obviously McIntyre is a name that a lot of people want to see put on weight this season, and see who becomes QB1 in the fall. But I think all of these guys' body types are going to be a lot better and stronger because of Owens in the fall.
Go back to the Rose Bowl, right? Indiana versus Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Say that sentence out loud.
And who won in the trenches in that game?
Exactly. And historically, how does that one go? Well, usually it's Alabama just putting belt to ass on Indiana, right? But Curt Cignetti said, I wanted to run it down their throat. I wanted to embarrass them. This was in a recent interview the Athletic did, and Derek Owings was actually one of the guys that was talking in this article. And Owings said that Cignetti wanted to run it down their throat. Well, how are they developing an Elijah Surratt from a 0-star, a JUCO kid that now is in the NFL? How are they developing, D'Angelo Ponce, an undersized corner? How are they getting him from a nobody to a star? It's because it's done in the weight room, and it's over time. It's developing. And while, Derek Owings might not have been calling the plays in that Rose Bowl, a direct reflection of the work he has done and did for that Indiana team was shown at the line of scrimmage, where Indiana put belt to ass for 60 minutes and beat Alabama 38-3 in the Rose Bowl. That to me is an example of a coach and a strength and conditioning coach specifically that knows what he's doing. And for the people that are somehow doubting him or online saying that this is a bunch of window dressing, I think is ridiculous. Alex, to you, how impactful is Owings going to be for this Tennessee team? And just what you saw last year from Indiana, little old Indiana.
Yeah.
Beats up on Alabama and the granddaddy of them all. I think that's an example.
Well, I want to start by asking Tennessee fans just a question. Do you want Vanderbilt to come in here and dominate in the trenches and everywhere else like they did this past year for the next couple of years? Because that's what happened last year. And we talked about, how the defense was such a weakness for this team last year. But that kind of stuff does not happen under Derek Owings. And you've touched on it now with all of the success he's had with these guys who are under-recruited. Look at Omar Cooper, a guy that was a 50-50 ball just merchant last year. That guy went up and got everything, and it turned him into a NFL, day one pick. Like, these guys that he's taken to the NFL and taken to a national title, it's huge. And I know this is a question we're going to touch on later, but this might be Tennessee's best hire because it changes everything, really, in the weight room. And I get it's a behind-the-scenes move, and, fans don't see it. But, I don't think Tennessee fans want Vanderbilt and all these other teams to come in and dominate like they did last year against Tennessee, because that's just not an identity that you want. So, yeah, you get the Cignetti guy in here. You get that whole mantra. I mean, what better guy to come in as a hire than Cignetti's strength coach? I mean, he's always usually the most juiced guy on the staff. So, you've got the guy who did that for Kurt Cignetti. So I think that's a thing you got to look at too. But yeah, ginormous hire, and honestly, one of my favorite graphics that I've ever seen the college football team put out. I mean, that's awesome. But hey, brag about it because it's a big deal.
Well, this is what Josh Heupel had to say about Coach Owings when he officially made the hire back in January. Quote, "Physical and mental toughness is paramount in everything we do year-round as a program. No one understands this better at a championship level than Derek. He will evaluate our strength and conditioning program with a relentless mindset and forge strong relationships with our players." Now, as we know, Coach Heupel loves to have some coach speak and a lot of kind of generalities, and that's what that quote basically was. But physical and mental toughness, that's what I highlight there because, again, that is where Tennessee lacked last season. And when you're in the weight room being pushed to your limit, that's the type of stuff that then parlays onto the field when you're pushed up against the ropes in a sequence like that, where it's a long drive in the fourth quarter and, Alabama's gone 11 plays. They're inside the 20. They need a touchdown, but you've got to make a stop. Those are those same type of moments where you've got one more rep or you're trying to get one more, boost in a game and in the weight room. So that's where I think that correlates in terms of being mentally tough and physically, that's pretty self-explanatory. But talking about the hires that were made this offseason, Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator, that was a huge hire, big publicity. Derek Owings as well. You made some changes on the special team side too. But I really believe the Derek Owings hire might have been more impactful than Jim Knowles. William, what? Did you see that Tennessee defense last year? Oh, it was terrible. Well, that, yes, is true. But I think a lot of that was because those guys weren't mentally tough. Those guys weren't physically tough and able to bring guys down. And you also saw a ton of lapses on the offensive side of the ball. And injuries play into it too. Deshaun Bishop was in and out of the lineup last year because he continued to get banged up. And not every injury is directly related to the time you spend in a weight room. There are freak accidents all the time, but your toughness and your ability to go through contact and withstand contact, that is a reflection of the weight room. And I know that Owings isn't a guy that's calling X's and O's on Saturday, but I kind of look at as like an expo guy in a restaurant. Your chef and your seasonings, all that. That's your defensive coordinator, your offensive coordinator. That's what the bulk of the product is going to be. That's how it's going to taste. But if you get that dish at your favorite restaurant, it's got grease everywhere or seasoning all over the place. It doesn't look like a actual product. It doesn't look like something that's enticing. And that expo person is the one that cleans it all up and makes sure it's presentable. That's kind of a Derek Owings here, a guy that does the little things behind the scenes that makes the overall product look a lot better. And that's why I think he can be as impactful as a Jim Knowles, as smart as Knowles is and how credentialed he is. I think Owings can do these little things that can really help out that defense and on the offensive side of the ball and just being physically and mentally more tough. Garrett, to you, was that Owings hire more impactful than Knowles in your eyes, or am I just kind of riding a high horse here?
I think, this season you could definitely see it. I think obviously we've seen, Jim Knowles' defense take a couple years to kind of kick fully in. So I think Owens can kind of establish that, defensive mentality of, let's be the dogs on defense. Let's win the trenches. Let's get to the quarterback. Let's do all those things that you got to do if you want to be a college football playoff team. And, especially this season with this home slate that you have a lot of games where you're going to have to win in the trenches. You play an Alabama team that's obviously going to be good, a Texas team that's going to be good, a Kentucky team that's going to be improved, an LSU team that's going to be really good. Like, a lot of these games, are you going to be able to protect your quarterback? Are you going to be able to put pressure on the other team's quarterback? So I think being stronger and more, mentally capacitated than other teams in those ways is important. How many times did we see this year, like, a young player like Ty Redmond, who you saw has the flashes of being a really good player in the secondary, and who you expect to be good this season. But how many times did you see him make weak tackles where you were like,
Sure.
come on, man, like especially in the Alabama game, like that might have worked in high school when you were the biggest player on the field, but when you're in college and you're going up against Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams and players like that, you can't do that. So I think that's what you're going to see most this season, and I think tackling obviously is definitely going to improve just because I think you're going to be stronger and you're going to be able to do it more, and hopefully you can create pressure on the quarterback and obviously win the line of scrimmage up front, because a lot of these SEC games are won at the line of scrimmage. You can't create the big chunk plays if you don't win at the line of scrimmage, and if you can't get to the quarterback and protect, if you can't get to the quarterback and get pressure, and they sit in the pocket all day, that's how games are also won. You saw that a lot this year, too. You saw Arkansas, their quarterback ran all over you in the backfield. You couldn't get to him. You didn't create enough pressure. So those are the things that you're going to have to change this season, and those are the little things that help you win games.
Alex, same question to you. I know it might be ridiculous to say considering what you saw from that Tennessee defense last year. Obviously, adding Jim Knowles is huge, but is Derek Owings almost as impactful?
Yeah, and I touched on it earlier. I think this is it might be Tennessee's best hire this offseason. And I've always been a big endorser of the phrase, you can't coach effort. But I think Derek Owings might be able to coach effort. I think last year we did see a defense that was not giving 100% at some points throughout the season. But I mean, you bring a guy like Derek Owings in there, you have no choice but to work hard. Like, it raises the standard, a hire like that. And I think that's the important thing. I love Garrett's Ty Redmond point. That's a guy that I think a lot of people are expecting to take a big jump this year. And, getting bigger, getting stronger, getting faster does that. Doesn't matter what sport you're playing. Doesn't matter how old you are. Whoever's the biggest, strongest, the fastest usually comes out on top, and especially in the SEC. I mean, it's all about who. A lot of times, it's who shows up late in the game, fourth quarter. I mean, who's got more late in the game to make a play or get a big sack. Those are some of the biggest things that we see at every position, whether it be quarterback, offensive line, defensive line, secondary. It's everything. And when you got a guy that can set the tone, not only obviously Jim Knowles is just a defensive guy. You've got a guy that sets the tone for the whole team here.
Yeah.
And people have been, who knows who's going to be your starting quarterback? But hey, George McIntyre probably could use a few pounds, right? So maybe he's one of the. I haven't checked the comments on that post, but I could definitely imagine there's some George McIntyre talk in those comments. But hey, it's a fantastic hire, and I think it's something that you might not think when you're watching Tennessee in this upcoming season, like, hey, this is the Derek Owens effect. But I think, you're going to see the spotlight, I think, turn to him more than you would any other strength coach in the country, because I think it is going to be huge, and it's going to show up in the games that matter.
Blake the Riot on the YouTube chat saying, I'd like to mention 10 pounds of muscle is a noticeable difference in body composition. And I would agree with that. And Matt Double S saying it's a really big deal in discussing Derek Owings. We've got Vol Girl number 1 saying the 100 emoji agreed when discussing Tennessee and the importance of Derek Owings. Now, yesterday, if you joined us, there was a little bit of back and forth from some of our listeners and my opinion on this Tennessee football team for the upcoming season. I was deemed negative Nancy by some people in the comment section. And I'm not negative Nancy. I just rather tell you how I believe it will be as a realist instead of trying to fluff it up and say this is going to happen and set unrealistic expectations. And the 2026 season is going to be a really difficult one, not only because of the SEC 9-game schedule, but also because you've got a quarterback situation that's a little eerie at the moment. Now, you like the potential of Faison Brandon, a former 5-star out of high school, and George McIntyre, another highly recruited quarterback out of Brentwood Academy. He redshirted last year, so he's at least got a season under his belt of going through practices and what it's like to be a college athlete. But my big example for why I don't think you can expect success right away next season is that young quarterbacks just don't win. And outside of Julian Sayin at Ohio State, who you saw in the NFL draft how many NFL players they had on that team and still lost to Miami in their first college football playoff game this year. That's a different topic. But Outside of Julian Sand, there weren't many young quarterbacks last year that had a lot of success. Bryce Underwood was a 5-star, the most talked about guy in that class, goes to Michigan, and the Wolverines don't beat a team with a pulse all year. Nebraska, they brought Dylan Raiola. Man, he was the talk of the town, wasn't he? Could have gone to Georgia and sat out for a couple of years and waited for his opportunity. Instead, wanted to go to Nebraska and start right away. Nebraska is not being a ranked team when he was a quarterback. You know, that's an issue. And hell, they're 2-37, 2-35 since the college football playoff era began. But that's another story for a different time. Those young quarterbacks, they're fun, but they're not going to be ready year one. Jared Curtis at Vanderbilt, I think he'll be good long term. I don't think he's going to be great next year. There are growing pains. It's a process. And the best examples of guys that stuck it out and learned over time and got better are like a Dante Moore at Oregon. Dante Moore started off at UCLA. First year, true freshman, started. He was pathetic. It was horrible. Turned the ball over more than he threw touchdowns. Transferred to Oregon, sat out. Third season of college football, had an impressive year. Ty Simpson, he waited 4 years to get the opportunity to be the starting quarterback for Alabama. He was much better last year than he was in the sparing moments we saw against South Florida a couple of years before. So my example here is that young quarterbacks don't win, and despite how talented your defense is going to be, despite, your offensive line returning some key pieces and wide receivers, and I like, Deshaun Bishop and Javon Gordon at running back, your quarterback play is going to have some growing pains, and I think in a 9-game SEC schedule, which is much more difficult than it was in 2024, because I've seen that comparison too. Well, in 2024, you were defensive-oriented. Yeah, but that schedule wasn't the same, and now you've got to play LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Texas, Auburn, Georgia Tech, week 2. It's just a more difficult schedule. So I'm not saying that Tennessee is going to have a bad season, it's going to be horrible, and that I don't want Tennessee to succeed. But I just think right now, when you look historically, it's going to be pretty tough for Tennessee to be a better than 8-4 team. And that's really where I see the ceiling right now at its peak, an 8-4 year. And that's usually going to be losses to your good teams, Texas, LSU, Texas A&M, and then probably in Alabama. Or, there's always that wild card game sprinkled in there as well. So I see 8-4 as the absolute ceiling for this team. Alex, to you, where do you anticipate Tennessee landing at the end of the season next year?
I think your 2 key words this year are going to be growing pains, because you've still got, and we expect this defense to be better, but it's a new system. There's new guys. There's still going to be growing pains there. And obviously the quarterback situation, in my opinion, is an issue right now. You've got one start in between those guys. So, I agree. I think 8-4 definitely is the ceiling. But I think what you have in your running back, which really Tennessee has had the luxury of knowing for the last couple of seasons. I think your receivers are good, and you hope your defense gets better, and you return some offensive line. I think quarterback's going to be an issue. And who knows? Maybe Faison goes out there and has a good year. But, you're still a first-year starter in one of the hardest leagues in the country, and you're playing one of the hardest schedules in the conference.
Yeah.
As much as you would like to say, hey, yeah, they're going to go out and win 9-10 games, I don't think you can say that right now because of how tough this schedule is, and just all of the external growing pains that you're going to have this year. I think that's expected for really everyone who talks about this team. There's going to be some issues, and you can't escape that. That's just part of the SEC. That's a part of the growing pains you're going to go through with all the new changes you've had. That's just how it's going to go. And I get Tennessee fans don't want to hear that, and everybody wants to be positive and say they're going to make the playoff, which they could, but I just think the shots are very outside.
Garrett, to you, same question.
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar record to last season probably. Yeah. Hopefully the defense takes a bit of a step up, but even the Noles defenses have been known to take a couple years. And then obviously the quarterback position, you're going to have a quarterback in there that has not played many collegiate snaps or any collegiate snaps, depending on who wins the job. And you can look great in practice, but it is a little bit different in the game when Cassius Howell and Keldrick Falk and Colin Simmons are coming off the edge, and then you got to throw it downfield perfectly, or Mansour Delane's going to intercept it from you. Like, those are, players in the SEC that you're going to be facing every week. And, those are the growing pains. You see sometimes the quarterbacks that can go out there and play good in their first season, and you saw that from Julian Sayin this season, but he also has a generational wide receiver on his team, and he also had the 4th pick in the NFL draft also in his wide receiver core, and he had probably the best freshman running back in the Big Ten. Like, he had a lot of pieces around him, and he's been in college football longer than people think. I mean, he early enrolled at Alabama when Nick Saban was still coaching there, so he's been through a lot of reps, and those are the reps that McIntyre obviously was the backup last season and went through those similar reps, but even McIntyre has not played as many snaps as Sayin did in games before he started. And obviously, if you go the route of Faison, he hasn't played any college snaps. So, yeah, there's probably going to be some growing pains. You play Georgia Tech week 2. That's going to be a tough game. And Bobby Dodd, going on the road against a very good, ACC team to start your season off. And then, obviously, the SEC schedule out, it's tough week in and week out. So, it's going to be difficult. I think you're going to probably win some games maybe you don't expect to win, and you're probably going to drop a game or two that you expect to win. So I think 8-4 is a safe bet right now.
Vol Girl number 1 on the Twitter stream asked, what if we played both quarterbacks similar to how Mertz and Lagway did? Well, Mertz was more experienced. He transferred over from Wisconsin, and he was playing in his final year of college football. Lagway, obviously, the incoming 5-star, but Mertz at least had some of that experience already under his belt, and that was a team that made it to the Gasparilla Bowl and played Tulane. So that would be back on track of that kind of 7-5, 8-4 projection. But my thing, just specifically maybe on the 2 quarterback look, if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm starting the season with the guy that I believe is going to be the long-term guy. Because I don't think there's any point in saying, okay, George, you're starting the year because you've been here longer, even though in the back of your head you think Faison has a higher ceiling. That doesn't make any sense. Because then you could get into 2027, you've had a whole year of George McIntyre, and you're like, well, Faison Brandon's a little bit better, we'll start him. And then you're kind of just taking a step back because you then allowed one guy to get all the reps or the majority of the reps, and now you're going to probably have to experience more growing pains with maybe a Faison if he does end up starting 2027. So if it's up to me, I pick the guy that I think has the highest ceiling, and I start him week 1. And if you have some growing pains throughout the year, embrace it, because that means the following season he'll be better on those. But I think you're going to see both guys play regardless this year. But in terms of a starter and in terms of a guy that you have the most confidence in, I think it should be the player that you think is going to be here the longest, and that gives you the best opportunity to win a national championship within the next 2 to 3 years. So,
and don't you think you have to do that? Because at the end of the day, you pick the quarterback, and the other guy's probably going to transfer. If Faison wins, McIntyre is going to be going into year 3 of not starting. And if Faison loses the job, then he knows he's probably going to be sitting for another year. So I think you just have to start the best player and sacrifice, in 2026, the other guy's probably going to go to the portal. That's just how it works.
Yeah. And, there are a lot of people like, well, why do you even recruit high school players if you're not going to play them? And, I think at the end of the day, you recruit these guys to figure out who's your best out of each class. And while George McIntyre was highly recruited, while Faison Brandon was very highly recruited, at the end of the day, those rankings don't mean anything unless they can play and perform on Saturdays inside Neyland Stadium or around the country. So for me, it's start the best guy, and the best guy that you believe will be the future of your team moving forward, not just seniority. If GMAC starts, that means GMAC's your guy for the next 2 to 3 years. That's the way I look at it. Faison starts, that means he's the guy for the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's how it should be, at least. When we come back, we'll switch over to the NBA playoffs, a pair of game 1s last night, a pair of game 2s tonight. We'll recap last night and get you ready for tonight when we return right here on the Playbook.
For the fans, by the fans, this is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Are you ready for the start of a new season? Maybe looking for your team to go on a tournament run? Get game day ready with Crumble. Head on over to your nearest location and pick up 12 pre-selected cookies plus exclusive toppers. When you're looking for dessert options, there's no question about who you should call on. Our listeners already know. Last year, the Dubai chocolate was a home run, along with the brownie batter. Oreo crumb was another crowd favorite. What new flavor will set the standard this season? If you're in the Knoxville area, there are 3 locations ready to serve you: Clinton Highway, Parkside Drive, and Maryville. Download the Crumble app to build your best lineup and vote on the best combos. You can even put your bid in to request a new flavor. Order in the app and slide on over to your nearest location. Tell them Fan Run sent you, and as always, it's for the fans, by the fans. Don't miss the cookies.
White Claw is taking hard seltzer to new heights with White Claw Surge. At 8% alcohol, White Claw Surge is a stronger wave of refreshment that doesn't compromise on taste. Available in 4 bold waves of flavor like ripe blackberry, citrusy blood orange, zesty natural lime, and tart cranberry. Check out your favorite retailer in-store and online for the White Claw Surge Variety 12-pack and 16-ounce single-serve cans. White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Wilco at Knoxville Smiles. Have you ever wanted to improve the look of your smile? We know firsthand what the power of a great smile means to a person's confidence and health. Our team of doctors can provide you with an array of options for helping you achieve your cosmetic goals. From simply moving teeth into a better position, to reversible cosmetic bonding, to full mouth implant-supported dentures. It is our goal to help patients feel good about their appearance while achieving optimal health. Want to learn more? Call us at 865-539-1776 to schedule an evaluation, or visit us online at knoxvillesmiles.com.
Running a business, coaching a team, planning your next big event, you need more than just gear. You need SM Athletics and Logo Solutions. Custom uniforms, branded apparel, promotional products, done right, done fast, and built to show off your brand with pride. From local businesses to high schools to major universities, SM Athletics is trusted by winners. Get real service, get real quality, get noticed. SM Athletics and Logo Solutions, where your brand comes to life.
Visit smathletics.com and let's build something great together.
Fan Run Radio, the flagship station for Tennessee fans.
This ain't no wishy-washy, limp-wristed, kale-eating, half-ass sports radio station.
We're your in-your-face, truth-telling, say it loud, flag-waving, face-painting, hardcore, bring the noise, causing a ruckus, don't give a damn sports station.
Sports talk that doesn't just hang up and listen.
For the fans. This is Fan Run Radio.
Get some.
All right, back here on the Playbook. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this fine Wednesday from Knoxville, Tennessee. Coming up in 26 minutes, it's The Drive with Russell Smith, Bob Baskerville, the Bear, and Walker Smith. They'll take you the rest of the way on this Wednesday afternoon, but we've still got a little bit to cover. And we'll begin in the NBA playoffs with last night's Game 1s. We'll begin with the Pistons. The Detroit Pistons are peaking at the perfect time, and their playoff surge rolled on with a 111-101 Game 1 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers at Little Caesars Arena. Detroit set the tone early and never let up, controlling the game from the opening tip, and they led for 91% of the night and built a lead that stretched to as many as 18 points. And it was the Pistons' first Game 1 win since the 2008 Eastern Conference semifinals against the Orlando Magic. And Cade Cunningham, he led the way with 23 points. Duncan Robinson caught fire from deep. He went 5 of 18 from the arc and had 19 points. And Tobias Harris continued his strong postseason play. He added 20 points and 8 rebounds. The VFL showing out on the grand stage. And one of the things for me in this series is, who do you trust more? I don't trust the Cavs and Donovan Mitchell or James Harden, for that matter, in the postseason after Game 2 of the second series. So I don't really trust Cleveland here. But this Pistons team, though they're playing better now, they had me on the ropes early on as they went down 3-1 against Orlando. So I don't really trust either team in this series, but I do lean to Detroit early in this series at home with the way they've been playing recently. But I think the Cavs could be in for a very interesting offseason if they're bounced in this round and continue to play like they did last night, where basically from start to finish, they were just not the better team. And Evan Mobley struggled. Donovan Mitchell was inconsistent. James Harden, I said back in February I wouldn't trade for James Harden if I'm trying to win an NBA championship, but that's just me. But Garrett, to you, takeaways from last night, and who do you trust more in this series right now?
Yeah, Detroit was the better team last night. Cleveland cut it in the third quarter there when they went on that little run to like 4 or 5 points, and Strus was playing good. Schroeder had some assists, but I mean Harden was pretty bad last night. 7 turnovers, one of 7 from 3. I mean that's just not something you can have from your second leading scorer on your team. I mean him and Mitchell have got to be shooting the ball better, and any superstar can't have 7 turnovers in a game. Obviously, the Pistons, I think they're just getting more out of kind of their role players than the Cavs are. Tobias Harris, again, was really good last night, 20 points. He's pretty much gotten you 20 points every game this playoff so far, and he scored 25 a couple times. He's been a really good solid piece for them. And Robinson, 19 last night. Cunningham, obviously, he does what he does every night with 23, but it just feels like right now the Pistons are getting a little bit more out of those role players than the Cavs are. And yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I trust Detroit in this one. Detroit was obviously, the East is not as deep as the West, but Detroit was the premier team in the East for a reason this season. I know they got behind 3-1 in that series last series, but they came back. They've won 4 straight games in a row now. I got to feel like they're playing with a little bit different of an energy now. They definitely have the confidence. And the Cavs coming off a 7-game series themselves with the loss, and then Detroit goes 7 and gets the win. It just feels like they have all the momentum right now in the series. I still think the series goes at least 6 games. I think it could go 7, but at the end of the day, I think Detroit's the better team here, and I think the role players from Detroit are going to be what pushes them over in the series.
Well, we've got Vol Girl 1 saying Pistons got this, and then Buck, on the other hand, foreshadowing to our next topic, he's saying, when I was younger, late 80s, early 90s, I watched the NBA. Huge Lakers fan. I haven't watched a game in over 20 years, as watching LaFlop, and LaFlop is on now the Lakers. I hope they get swept.
The team that they're playing is flopping a lot more.
I will say, Buck, the team they're going up against, if you don't like LaFlop, then I don't even know how you can put Flop in SGA, but man, that was tough last night. Let's get into that Thunder win last night over Los Angeles as Oklahoma City opened up Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinal series with a win over LA. Suffocating defense once again. They win 108-90 on Tuesday night. And Chet Holmgren, he had a team-high 24 points. SGA and a Jay Mitchell. Starting in place of the injured Jalen Williams was Mitchell, but they combined to score 60 points. Oklahoma City held Los Angeles to 37 second-half points and took the lead for good with 38 seconds remaining in the first quarter. The Thunder shot 49.4% from the field, 43.3% from 3, and 92% at the free throw line. The Lakers were led by LeBron James with 27 points, despite not having Luka Doncic once again. But Austin Reeves was horrible. He went 3 of 16 for 8 points, not the type of performance necessary to defeat a team like Oklahoma City. And looking at last night, I thought LA hung around, but they suffer another injury with Jared Vanderbilt dislocating his pinky, a full dislocation of that pinky finger, and that was pretty gross. Hit it on the side of the backboard. He's going to be out the rest of this series. It's going to be a 3 to 6 week process, so they could, at the very minimum, get him back for the finals if they were to make that. So that's another player out of the rotation in addition to Luka Doncic. And Austin Reeves has got to be better. I mean, you get a normal night from him, 20 points, and this is a game. Now, obviously, I hate when people do that, right? Like, well, if Austin Reeves scored 20, then this is a Lakers win. Well, it's just not really how that works because there are second chance opportunities and But LeBron looked good last night. It was kind of one of those coasting Game 1 games for him where he's able to hit a couple of big shots, get hot early. But when his teammates weren't filing suit, especially in that third quarter, is when I eventually thought the Lakers lost it. That's where you lose a game like this. They cut it to 4 midway through the third, and then never could really get the match production that the Thunder got. And again, they want to turn you over, does Oklahoma City. They want to turn you over. They want to run out. They want to get open threes. They were great on the glass in terms of second chance points. So a lot of the characteristics that the Thunder strive on and the Lakers could not allow happened last night in the middle of the third quarter on. And I still give LA a chance to win this series, but you're going to need Luka Doncic back. You're going to need to be at full strength somewhat. Austin Reeves cannot put up a March 16th date from the field, and you're going to have to get a Luke Kennard or Marcus Smart to have a nice performance as well. I thought Rui Hachimura was okay, but, I mean, the intuition of me wants me to say that LA can have a chance at winning this series, but going to need a big win in either game 2 or game 5. You're going to have to get one on the road if you really want to win it, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do so. But, Garrett, to you, your takeaways from last night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Lakers were in it, at halftime, single digits. LeBron obviously was good in that first quarter, 14 points, and he went 12 of 17 last night for 27. But, yeah, just not a whole lot, around him to help him. Obviously, AR was awful last night, couldn't get a shot to fall, and some of the bench present wasn't very good at all. I think Jake LaRavia right now is pretty much unplayable. And so LeBron's pretty much having to do this all, last night he had to do it basically all by himself if Reeves isn't going to show up. And Doncic, obviously, they reported before the game he had gone over to Europe for they said treatment, but it almost sounded like when they sent him over there, they were basically saying, we don't anticipate you to come back anytime soon. So he went over there and visited family because he hadn't seen his newborn son that was born over there. So I don't know when they believe that Doncic is going to come back. Obviously, without Doncic, this is probably going to be over in 5 games max. It might be over in 4 games. SGA didn't play great last night. That was his season low in points of the night. Didn't reach 20 points for the first time all year, but it's just tough to watch this OKC team. A lot of flopping. SGA, I don't understand how you can be a 2-time MVP back-to-back, and instead of trying to get to the rim and initiate contact, you're sitting around, the free throw line, and when someone touches your elbow, you're flopping like a fish out of water. It's just embarrassing to watch. And this is why casual fans don't watch the NBA during the regular season. The NBA during the playoffs is a completely different level of basketball. They play defense. In my opinion, NBA basketball is the highest level of athleticism in the playoffs. You just see these guys turn on a gear that you don't see in any other sport, in my opinion. But the flopping is just, it's embarrassing. I'm not saying that he wasn't fouled on all of them. Some of them were fouls. But you don't got to do the stuff that he did. It's tough to watch when that's going on.
Well, it's a little refreshing when they do not call it either. He had a couple of times last night where he flailed in a bunch of different directions, and it went uncalled. So I was happy to see that. And I will say, as someone on the chat mentions, talking about the struggles for Jake LaRavia, why not play Dalton Connect? And last night was really the first time I'd really considered it for LA. And Dalton, when he comes into the game, he is ice cold. I mean, the last couple of games he's been able to play, it's been garbage time, sure, but he's been ice cold, and he just needs some confidence because I do think he could be of service. I mean, I'm watching a Jay Mitchell and an Isaiah Joe, and obviously those guys are really good players and have established themselves on multiple levels already. But I mean, for a Connect, you get into the game and you just hit a couple of triples, and you get some of your momentum back. So in the NBA playoffs, sometimes you've got to find a player like that comes out of the woodwork of your bench and becomes a valuable role player. You saw it last year in the NBA Finals where the Pacers and Thunder had a different role guy step up every night. It was like an Obi Toppin one night, then a TJ McConnell, then it was an Isaiah Joe, whoever it was. I think the Lakers can maybe look at that and say, let's replace LaRavia's minutes with either more Bronny or more Dalton Connect, or just put Dalton Connect in, period. So I kind of look at that as maybe something that
you
the
think
Lakers
they would go with
use.
him, though, over Bronny? It feels like if they're going to give someone more minutes that's deeper on the bench, it's going to be Bronny.
I think for Bronny, you at least get a secondary ball handler, and that is also a bit of a concern right now. Marcus Smart can obviously play it, but usually Smart will come out for Bronny, and that gives you a ball handler. Connect necessarily isn't a guy you want bringing it up full court.
Right, 2 different positions.
But I think for Connect, just in terms of position, you could take LaRavia's spot as a 3-point shooter, but Connect's defense is tough. It's not great.
Yeah. No, and as much as I love Connect, anybody at Tennessee does. The struggles on the Lakers, I mean, part of them have been brought upon himself. He struggled to learn the playbook. There's been some pretty ugly moments when he's been in the games. It's not been fruit and flowers the way it was in the preseason a couple of years ago when he scored 30 points. I mean, he's had some pretty rough moments for the Lakers over the past couple seasons.
Yeah, look, I like DK more than anyone, but I have to be real. The defense is an issue. Even the couple of outings he's had, both in the garbage time against the Rockets and the Thunder, and he's getting blown by 10th men on the other team. So that's why he's not playing defense and just out of rhythm as a shooter. But tonight you've got Philly and New York. Joel Embiid ruled out.
Shocker.
I think that one's going to get ugly. I'll take New York pretty comfortably there. And then the many men, my T-Wolves. I've got my Lakers and my T-Wolves here in the postseason.
Ayo's back tonight.
And, Ayu Dosunmu's back, and then they're going up against Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. Wembanyama coming off a historic block performance, whether it was goaltending in some people's book or not. But I think both home teams win tonight. If the Spurs do not win this one at home, the many men might be marching back to the Western Conference Finals, and I would be A-okay with that because I got my plus 4,000 ticket sitting there waiting on them. So I go 2 home teams tonight. Garrett, what you got?
Yeah, I like Spurs to bounce back, and then, Knicks without Embiid. I think the Knicks are just going to be too much. MSG was on fire the other night. It's going to be another great environment there. Honestly, I think both home teams probably win by double digits, both cover.
All right, good stuff. When we pivot back, we will discuss the Coaches Association trying to mess up college football. We'll discuss that when we return right here on the Playbook.
Congratulations. You found sports radio that doesn't suck. This is Fan Run Radio, Knoxville.
Hey Knoxville, Surfside iced tea and vodka made with real brewed tea is only 100 calories, 2 grams of sugar with no bubbles and no troubles. That's right, 0 carbonation, so it's easy to sip and enjoy. Headed to a game day or party at a friend's house? Bring an iced tea or lemonade variety pack from Surfside or try their green tea and new raspberry tea vodka. Find the can with the sunset stripes this season. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sold at bars, restaurants, and stores near you. Surfside iced tea and vodka, sunshine in a can. Must be 21 or older. Enjoy responsibly.
Citizens National Bank.
Life is more fun with a Good Life account, offering extra benefits, including bank travel. Experience the trip of a lifetime to Ireland. Explore rolling green hills, historic castles, and charming villages across the Emerald Isle. Get in on the fun. Call 865-429-7935 today.
Citizens National Bank. Banking never felt so good.
Member FDIC.
Barley's has live music on weekends, general team trivia on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., and now live sports trivia, courtesy of the Knoxville Trivia Guys, every Thursday night upstairs. The game starts at 7 p.m. and is free to play for everyone, so head on down to the Old City and show off your sports knowledge and win gift cards to Barley's. Use those gift cards to buy some delicious food and drinks, and you can take it all in with their wide selection of TVs and indoor projectors. Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria.
All right, wrapping things up on a Wednesday. Good stuff today. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Reminder, The Drive with Russell Smith, Bob Baskerville, The Bear, and Walker Smith. Coming up next on these Fan Run Radio airwaves. They'll take you from 3 to 6 to round out your Wednesday afternoon. But before we're done, let's pivot over to our final thoughts, and that is the college football coaches back-ending conference title games and maximizing the college football playoff field. So the American Football Coaches Association does not have the formal power to change the rules, but coaches can sit in on these various NCAA committees, and they're proposing to expand the college football playoff anywhere from 16 to 24 teams and eliminate the conference title games in the early portion of December. And I cannot get around this at all. It would actually make me very upset if they got rid of the conference championship games. And I speak from existence and speak from prior experiences in this because, my family has always had season tickets to the SEC title game back since, it began. So I always go to it, whether it's, Tennessee playing or, Alabama, whatever. I always go to it because it's really fun. It's a weekend. You get to go see the two best teams in the best conference play inside an illustrious stadium, whether it be the Georgia Dome, which I loved, one of my favorite stadiums of all time, the Georgia Dome, or the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Either one, you get to watch really good football at the end of the season. And winning your conference means something. Winning the SEC means something. Winning the Big Ten means something. And that shouldn't go away because we're going to fluff up the college football playoff and allow a bunch of 3-loss teams that play tough schedules to make it. I think the SEC put themselves in this spot, going to a 9-game schedule. They didn't have to do it. The Big Ten, you make the argument. Rutgers and Northwestern and Purdue, having those 3 to 4 teams on your schedule every other year doesn't really move the needle. But, adding LSU now into the mix and Texas A&M to the mix of already going up against Texas and Alabama and Auburn and all these others, that plays a difference. So the SEC is really the one that should be upset with themselves for making this money move. But for me, it's a no-go in terms of taking out the conference championships. They mean something. They have a long-standing history. I think that'd be a very stupid idea. And the fact that all these coaches have talked so long about participation trophies and how they don't want this is a participation trophy if you take out the conference championships and move it to 24. Then you're giving teams that really shouldn't be there the opportunity to play. So it's a huge no for me. Guys, what do you make of it?
Well, an 8-4 team that makes SEC Big 12, whoever it is, they're not going to win at all. Why are they in the field if they're not going to win at all? It doesn't make sense. You're going to get rid of conference title games, which have history. Doesn't make any sense. You're going to make the regular season less important. That doesn't make any sense. And you're gonna see players rested in the last couple weeks of the season if this happens. You're gonna see a 10-0 Ohio State not play their starters the last 2 games of the season, and that could go into rivalry weekend. Could you imagine the Iron Bowl where Alabama's like, we're 10-1, we're just gonna sit our starters this week? That would be so disappointing if that ever becomes something that happens.
No, I totally agree with Garrett and what you guys have said. It's just why are we even trying to expand it any farther? We just had this discussion with March Madness, and I get it's just a different, format, but conference championships are great. There's nothing better than getting up on conference championship Saturday. Big 12's on at noon. I guess they moved it this year, but still, you got wall-to-wall championship football action going on. That's awesome. And you see the split fan bases, stadium, it's awesome. So yeah, it sucks, and I really hope it doesn't happen. But I don't know. I hate the idea of expanding all of these things. Why are we always trying to expand now? If it's not broken, we don't need to fix something. I'm so sick of this in college sports in general. It's frustrating, and I hope it doesn't happen. But I know, I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Well, we've only had 1 year of this 12-team format, and it's going to be 2 years of it, right?
No, 1 year.
Well, I guess. Well, yeah, this is the second year up. This past year was.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so you've only had 2 years of watching a team go through a 12-game conference, or a 12-game playoff schedule, right? And I don't think it's worth changing at this point in time. You got to experiment with it. But at the end of the day, I'd like to keep college sports as close to the historical reference as we can, and knocking out the SEC championship would make me irate. We can just go a cold cut on the outro, Garrett, but we'll wrap things up for a Wednesday edition of the Playbook. We appreciate you listening along with us. For Garrett Armbrust and Alex Sarkis, I'm William Pattison. We'll be back same time tomorrow, 1 to 3, right here on Fan Run Radio. But coming up next,